Today we're going to be talking about clothing care. Now, I know this is a pretty simple concept of this is how you wash your clothes, this is how you dry your clothes. But we're going to talk in specifically looking at that fiber content. We talked about the clothing care symbols last week, and now we're going to put them to action this week. So we're going to see what happens when you don't do this properly and how you should prepare your clothes so your clothes can last as long as possible. So whenever you look at the care labels, they should look something very similar to this. If it's not written in the pictures like we learned last week, then it's going to be written in the words itself. So this will say wash on warm water, um, do not bleach, do not dry, iron on medium, or you can send it out for dry cleaning, or in this case, professional cleaning means the same thing. But it does have to include how to wash it, how the water temperature. It should include the drying method, drying temperature, type of bleach, if you can use an iron, and the ironing temperatures. If you don't see the symbol on there or it's not written in words, assume that you should not do that. So if this whole care package or care label right here did not have an iron on it, then assume that you cannot iron the material. So this is what it has. This first one tells you 40 degrees instead of using the dot method. So that tells you your washing method, that a washer is okay. Your water temperature, 40, it's actually 40 degrees Celsius. So that is okay water temperature. Your drying method right here says that you should not dry it because you're not drying it. Doesn't need to tell you a drying temperature. Right here it says type of bleach or if bleach can be used anyway, type of iron, and then ironing temperatures. And this one actually threw on there the extra professional dry cleaning. So you should be sorting your clothes properly. I know a lot of us tend to say, I have a whole thing of dirty laundry. I don't want to have to break it down into 3 or 4 loads because I know I can wash it in 2 giant loads. So we tend to throw everything in there. But because we keep doing that, we also tend to cut down the lifespan of our clothing. And if we want them to last long as possible and keep some extra money in our pocket, and also be a little bit more sustainable for the environment, we should be washing them and sorting them and washing them so they can last long as possible. So you can either sort it by color, you can sort it by the washing temperature. So if they all need to be washed on cold, the wash cycle, maybe they all have to be washed on delicate. The surface texture, so it makes sense to want to wash all of your towels together because all their texture is the same, and the degree of soil. So that could be basically how dirty is the garment. If you went out riding ATVs and dirt bikes and things like that, you probably don't want to wash the super muddy clothes with a shirt that you're maybe going to wear to school the next day or your work uniform. So you can sort them by any of this. Just make sure you try to, whichever way you do it, you stick very closely to it. You should prepare your clothes for laundering. How many of you guys have actually washed it and completely forgot that you had a marker or an ink pen in your pocket? Or maybe you've left $5 in your pocket. So, when we talk about preparing, we want to make sure we do a couple of these things, and that will help ensure the lifespan of our clothes again. So, if you did go out riding your ATV or your dirt bikes, you want to remove any soil or mud that's gotten caked onto the clothes. Shake it off or brush it off. Probably don't do it in the room. Go out to your garage or go out to the side of the house, let that all dry out as much as you can, and then shake it off. If you have any zippers or hooks, make sure you close them up. If not, they can snag and twist on other clothes. It happens with hooks. It happens really commonly with women's bras that those the bra clasps in the back tend to hook onto other things and wants to twist them. What it can do is it can bend out the bra hook. So when you constantly have to keep rebending it back in, eventually it will weaken and it will break. If there's any snags or rips or tears, you wanna fix those, because if not, the washer or the dryer can actually make those snags, rips, or tears worse. Check your pockets, take out any of those pens, pencils, your headphones, things like that. And then if there's any stains that are set in stains, you want to make sure you pre-treat those. So use a type of spray or a stain remover stick or anything like that. Treat that, follow the directions on that so you don't ruin the clothing and then throw it in the washer. So here's a tons of different types of products that we can end up actually using. So some of you guys may end up wanting to use like regular soap or a type of laundering soap. It sometimes does come in a bar like this, which this bar right here, is actually this is a real brand name. This is actually really great as a pre-treat, as a stain pre-treater. I personally use it and I love using it. But it is like a little bar of soap. So you could that removes soil and hard water. Bleach itself, this is like regular bleach or cleaning bleach that you would like use on your floors and to clean your bathtubs and things like that. That helps remove stains, it whitens, and it disinfects. Keep in mind though, it can only be used on white clothing. If not, it will ruin any of your colors because that is a type of, that's like the overall name of bleach. It's also a type of chlorine bleach. So chlorine bleach and regular bleach are the same thing, just kind of giving you guys certain reminders. Detergents are typically the liquid or the powder detergents. They remove soil in hard water or soft water, and that kind of just depends on like the minerals and stuff in your water. So soap works in hard water, not as well in soft water. This works in all types of water. Water softener. So if you do have really hard water, and you'll know if you have hard water, and you actually may end up having one of these and not even realize it, it's going to be like on the side, back by the washer, things like that. But it actually hooks up, and what it does is it filters everything through and it makes hard water into soft water. You can also use fabric softeners. Great thing about fabric softeners is it does reduce wrinkling and static electricity. But I will tell you right now, it's not you need to use one or the other, whether you decide to use the liquid softener in your washing machine or you decide to use a dryer sheet in your dryer. Using both will not make something twice as soft. You're kind of just spending more money for the exact same result. So use one or the other and then you can go from there. Personally, I like using the dryer sheets because they actually have a couple of more uses throughout the house. There's little like hacks and stuff like that. If you have really staticky hair, you could take a dryer sheet and kind of run it through your hair real quick. That will help reduce static in your hair. You really can't do that with liquid, but use one or the other. There's no need to use both. You're just spending twice the amount of money. And then down here we have the oxygen bleach or the non-chlorine bleach. Same thing. That's safe for all washable fibers. So this can be used on color and it can be used on whites. So whenever we dry clothes, automatic dryers are convenient, especially for large loads. You have the different types of cycles, which we looked a little bit into last week when we looked at the different symbols. You have a regular cycle, so those are for clothes that are not heat sensitive. Permanent press cycle, basically there's some heat in there throughout, and then as the last few minutes of the drying cycle comes to an end, it will actually do it with a little bit of a cool down in there, so it just removes the heat and the clothes are just kind of back at room temp. And then your fluff cycle, that's unheated air. That's just regular room temperature air, and that's really used to help freshen items. Line drying, that's old school. Your grandparents may do this. Some of your parents may do this if this is how they grew up, but they'll actually go out to a clothesline and get clothespin and hook their clothes up on really nice days with a little bit of breeze blowing. But that is recommended for some fabrics that need to dry, but they can't handle a dryer because the dryer is too rough for them. Flat drying is another way. That's when you take the garment and you lay it on a flat surface. You make sure that you press it all out with your hands, make sure there's no wrinkles or bubbles in it, and it will dry. It does take longer to dry because it doesn't have the use of gravity like line drying does to help pull the water down. However, it won't stretch either. So if you're drying like a wintertime sweater, you don't want to put that in your dryer because it's more than likely going to shrink. So you would use flat drying, lay it out on top of the dryer, on a table, run your fingers through it to make it sure it's all nice and flat. And in that way, it actually won't stretch out at the shoulders as if it was hanging on a hanger. And it also helps avoid shrinkage as well. Ironing and pressing. These are two different things. However, they both involve the iron. Ironing is the old school way that you guys know. This is literally taking a heated up iron to the right temperature and dragging it over the clothes. Pressing is when you take the iron and it's at the correct temperature it needs to be. And instead of running it over your clothes, you actually just lift it up and down. You press it on the clothes or the seam, you lift it up, you move it, you put it down. You don't drag it over the clothes. Okay. Sometimes you just need to press certain areas of clothes. Sometimes you can't iron over all the clothes because screen printing and stuff will melt. So you want to make sure that in order to preserve those clothes, especially with screen printing or like graphic t-shirts, you want to lay a really thin fabric over it. You want to make sure the heat setting's on the lower side, and then you can press or iron on that. So then that way it won't accidentally melt the screen pressing and ruin both your iron and the garment. So make sure you use it properly, use the proper setting for the fabric, okay? Press an inside seam or hem first. Sometimes irons, even though garments will say this is the temperature that you can heat it up to, doesn't always react well with it. So you don't want to accidentally start ironing the very front of a shirt or, the back of your pants and it discolor it. You want to do it on a side that's inconspicuous. You want to iron along the lengthwise grain, and then you want to use a pressing cloth to prevent shine. That's that thin material I was telling you about whenever you press over like screen prints and things like that. That pressing cloth will help prevent it. And it actually helps make sure that you don't melt down the additives put in clothes to help them maintain shape and shine. You don't want to accidentally melt those to where it's a permanent shine. Last little bit about dry cleaning, you do have professional dry cleaners. They use specialized treatments and proper pressing, and the price is determined by the garment type. So you wouldn't take in a whole load of laundry and say, okay, press all the or dry clean all this for $15. They take it out garment by garment and say this winter coat will be $20. This blazer will be $14. So they do it by the garment. There are some in-home dryer kits where it will process it and walk you through how to set your dryer settings, and you put some of the, additives in there and things like that, and that helps remove odors, wrinkles, and light stains, in about a half an hour in the dryer. I personally have never tried one of these. I would rather just trust and pay the few extra dollars for the dry cleaners to do it. All right, so storing clothes. Some of us do like a winter summer exchange. So you want to store your really nice clothes in drawers to prevent stretching. So if you leave clothes on the hanger for way too long and don't wear it for like 2 years, it's eventually going to stretch down. It's just how gravity works. So in order to prevent that or the weird little bubbles in the shoulder seams from hangers, you want to fold it very nicely and put it in drawers or put it in storage boxes. Any clothes that have fasteners or buttons, you want to make sure those are closed whenever you hang them up so that keeps the shape. You want to use specialty hangers when necessary. So sometimes it's using those velvet irons to help prevent clothes from slipping off the hanger all the time. You want to store like garments together. That's kind of that summer and winter thing. Put all your winter clothes out, and then you put those in storage as soon as spring and summer starts rolling around. And then any clothes that need to be laundered or dry cleaned, make sure you put them in the right spots. Have your dirty hamper, your clothes sorter, whatever you want to call it, and make sure they go there and not on your floor. Okay, so your assignment's pretty simple, just a handful of questions. All the answers can be found here in these notes or watching the video. So the video will actually answer a couple of these questions for you. So try not to skip to the very, very end. Go back and watch certain sections of it. If you have any questions, make sure you email me.